Hi, this is David Tessar at MMS 2013 on Channel 9, and today I am joined again with Carrie.
Hi, David. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah. Last year we talked, and now here you are again.
I know, it's a reoccurring event here at MMS, but it's always fun to be here. The energy's high, and it looks like the turnout's really, really well.
Yeah. And so you have a session on Windows Azure in the Enterprise here at MMS.
I do. It's tomorrow. I believe it's at noon.
Yep.
And one of the product marketing managers on my team, Venkat, is also joining me for that session. So we're looking forward to sharing some information about Azure and how our enterprise customers can use it.
So one of the first questions I wanted to ask you is the IT guy, right? So if I go to Azure, am I just going to be out of a job, or what's that going to look like for me?
No, in fact, what it means is that your job is just going to evolve. So if you think about computing over the last 10, 20 years, we've seen a lot of changes in the industry. You go all the way back from the mainframe into Unix, into when Microsoft introduced client-server computing, and then we had virtualization and private cloud come along. Each one of those sort of computing eras, the IT administrator basically learned new skills and they evolved. We're going to see the same thing in the cloud. And what that means is some of the skills that the IT pros have today, they'll continue to leverage because of the hybrid environment. There'll still be a mass need for on-premise services. But as we move into the cloud, they will essentially move up the stack, so to speak. And the things that they do, there will continue to be management, there'll be deployment of infrastructure services, but the need to configure a network or potentially configure a physical server, that may go away because those things are going to be done automatically in the cloud.
Yeah. I think most of us IT guys know we have to keep evolving and learning new things, and with Windows Azure, I mean, it's like, hey, you still have to monitor, manage, do all the same kinds of things you're doing. The plumbing might be different,
right?
And you probably don't want to be the guy that's changing out the tape, right, anymore.
Exactly.
But yeah, all right. Well,
but in one more comment on that too, is that the fun part, the thing that IT loves, is that you get to learn new things, right? Yeah. So there's an opportunity here to actually embrace the change, have a little fun with it, and learn how to do some new things.
Yeah, very much so. Well, at Windows Azure, there's a huge amount of stuff under the hood there. What are some of the I'd say some of the key scenarios that IT pros maybe should start thinking about Windows Azure for?
Sure. When we talk in the session tomorrow, there are a couple key scenarios that we're really going to help customers kind of take a look at, right? And to your point, there are a number of things that you can do with Azure. And if you try and do everything at once, it's going to feel a bit overwhelming. Mm-hmm. So we really want to guide them to take advantage of some of the things that they know that are familiar, kind of get their feet wet a little bit, and then move into using the platform more holistically. So the 5 key areas that we'll talk about tomorrow are storage, backup, and recovery, very familiar scenarios mm-hmm. in the enterprise. We'll talk about enabling test and development and running applications on the platform. We'll give them some examples on how they can extend their infrastructure. So really think about the hybrid environment. So you'll have some things on-prem, you'll have some things that you want to take in the cloud, and you'll have some things that you want to combine. So how do you do that combined piece and extend your existing data center into the Azure data center? And then lastly, we'll talk about basically reaching where your data center can't. So turning up services at a rapid pace and allowing them to burst when they're on demand, things around marketing campaigns and mobile apps and things of that nature.
Yeah, or even maybe spreading things out across the world in areas that you don't even have resources and you want to spin those up there.
Yeah, it's a great point. Yeah. One of the nice pieces about using Azure and cloud computing is that you can take advantage of global reach in minutes. And mm-hmm. typically if you have to go into data centers around the world in physical mm-hmm. scenarios, you have to procure hardware, you have to ship it out there. With Azure, you don't. You mm-hmm. basically identify where you want your app to run and which geo, and we make it available in our data centers for you instantly.
Well, I was hoping. I mean, I know a thing or two about Windows Azure myself, and I was
going to show me up here, David?
I was hoping. No, I was hoping to maybe sneak in a quick thing on the dev test scenario, if you don't mind.
No, please go ahead.
Okay.
And just while you're getting ready to spin that up, when we talk about the dev test scenario, what we're really looking at is taking advantage of infrastructure services to quickly spin up virtual machines, storage, compute, so that you can build applications at a rapid pace. And if you decide that you're working on a prototype, you can easily tear that down with low cost. Or if you want to move that developed application back on-prem, you can port that VM back to your on-prem site or to your hoster, or just turn it live within Azure. So show them what you got.
That's part of that cloud OS story, right? Across moving it wherever you want, across service provider, Windows, Azure, or on-prem. Now, I don't have all of that working, but I think that what I was going to show here is just kind of a quick scenario, like I'd call it a little nugget that relates to dev and test for the IT pros that are out there that are running virtual machines. So what I'll do is I'll just go into the console here, and first off, I'll delete this virtual machine, okay? And at first glance, when you delete this, you think, oh, hey, it's not going to delete the disks, and as an IT guy, you might be thinking, oh no, I'm going to lose my data, right?
Right.
But things are a little different here in Windows Azure, so what we'll do is we'll just say, yeah, I want to delete that VM, and it's now going off and deleting. All right, well, when the trick is, with Windows Azure, that's really just deleting your compute instance, and the disk is being saved, so you hence that warning. So when you go back into the disks section there, you'll notice that there's some virtual machines. For instance, earlier I deleted the Windows Azure DC4, okay? Right there I had Azure DC4, I deleted that. You'll notice that it's also not associated with any virtual machines or not attached to any virtual machines. Okay, so if I wanted to go back in, and that state is saved. So when we hit delete, it gracefully shuts down, saves that disk. So it's effectively in that same state before. Your compute usage is not being charged, but you have a little bit of cost for storage. And so if you're in a DR scenario or you're in a dev test scenario, you can have all those VMs spin up, not be paying for the cost of those VMs running during the day, or during the evening, perhaps, or maybe the developers went on vacation or something, right? Spin all those off, and then if I go back in to create a new virtual machine here from gallery, right? If I go to my disks, I'll notice I have, hey, how about that? Tessar Azure DC4, right? So right there, you can see the virtual machine, and I could just click through this wizard, spin that virtual machine back up, give it whatever size I want. So that's kind of like, a little nugget of dev and test action.
Very nicely done.
Yes. So,
and I want to just kind of hit on a point that you mentioned there. So you're absolutely correct in that from a 24/7 perspective, developers might not be running in that mode, right? So why continue to maintain the resources there if you don't have to? One of the nice pieces about the cloud is that you can spin up and spin down resources just like you showed. You can also increase those resources, and it is a pay-as-you-go.
Right.
So whether you're taking advantage of a credit card or other mechanism, it's pretty easy for you to do that.
Yeah, and of course, I've given the very simple GUI view, but we've got PowerShell commands to help you automate that. You have System Center components as well that to help you automate things and even move things back and forth. But just a quick, simple one. So one of the things that I sometimes get asked, and I'll ask you the hard question here, is how is Windows Azure different, right? There's a lot of other competitors in that space that are out there. What's maybe unique about Microsoft and Windows Azure?
I think there's a couple of things that are unique. Well, first of all, if you think about our vision around Cloud OS, we're really looking at using the same operating system, the same platform across on-prem, in the cloud from Microsoft services delivered through Azure, and then in hosters. Now with us, because the underlying infrastructure is Windows Server 2012 and the underlying format for our virtualization is the same regardless, we get great portability across all of those instances. So we're really reducing vendor lock-in there. If you want to run it on Azure, we're 100% there for you. And for our platform services, we'll manage those services on your behalf. If you want to run an infrastructure services with those VMs, after you finish your dev test scenario, we give you the ability to configure and manage those on your own using the tools that you know today. If you think about that with other vendors, you can't necessarily take those skills and those tools that you already have deployed in your environment and then manage their cloud services or their cloud environments. You have to go and relearn, and you're probably going to spend an additional amount of money in order to take care of that management. So we have some nice differentiation there. And then the other piece is really around the identity, right? They're doing everything and they're federating everything into the on-premise identity. Well, today we talked about Windows Azure Active Directory and the ability to create a cloud tenant. Now, if you're greenfield, you can go and create your own tenant there, sync it up with Office 365, and you have nice cloud identity store. If you do need to go back on-prem, you can also take that and work it into your existing AD deployment as well. With other cloud providers, they don't have that cloud identity, and we think that's going to be a really key differentiator going forward.
Yeah, I know another, to touch on that as well, I know another thing that Brad hit on in his keynote was that, hey, like, we run our own workloads the best. So you can guarantee that we are continuing to test our different workloads that run on Windows Azure and make sure those run the best. And then the other angle too, right? That was mentioned is that, hey, like, if I want to call up and get support, I've got one-stop shop, right? So no longer do I have to call Google or Amazon or Rackspace or whatever on the maybe infrastructure side. I can call Microsoft on the infrastructure, and then, hey, if there's a problem with the server, I call them to, hey, it's right there, a Microsoft product, right?
That's a great point. We worked across the entire company for all the workloads that are certified. In the preview process, we've been working with all of those engineering teams within Microsoft. So the Azure team works with Windows Server to make sure that works well, and all of the other workloads. So we will make sure they're first and best. And to your point about support, there's a couple of things that we should probably mention there. Existing support agreements, you can add Azure onto those existing support agreements. So if you're using Premier or CSS today, we want to make it easy for you there. In terms of procurement, putting Azure onto your existing EA, we're working to make things really easy for you there. So we want to make sure that customers can procure Microsoft capabilities in the way that they're used to procuring them, to kind of ease that transition and use the new technologies as well. But one other point on the support piece, I encourage all of you to call some of the other vendors and ask them their support processes on things that are non-operating system or virtualization related, and see what kind of response you get. With Microsoft, you definitely will get we support the whole stack.
All right, so where can IT pros and other folks that want to know more about Windows Azure go to learn more? Yeah.
Sure, there's a couple things that they can do. We're doing a session here on Windows Azure in the Enterprise, so take a look at that online once the recording is posted. And then there is also a Windows Azure Jumpstart on May 16th that David is hosting.
Hey, how about that, huh?
Feel free to take advantage of that and get some hands-on learning.
Great. All right, thanks, Carrie.
You're welcome. Thank you.